Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Well, hello everybody and welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We are in season 3 and this is episode 3 and it's a really lovely one. It's a lovely time of year. We are coming up to Easter, so this is our Easter episode. I'm looking outside, the sun is actually shining. And that brings us on to our word for this week and our brilliant guest. So our word is shine. And our guest is Corinna Parkins, who runs True Colours. Morning, Corinna. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm good.
Good. So you are very special in tons of different ways, but particularly because you were my very, very first podcast guest. You were the one that was brave enough to record with me when I really didn't know what I was doing, didn't have a mic set up, didn't really know how it was all going to go. And it was fantastic to talk to you. And we talked about community. But I wanted to get you on today because you and I, as friends, talk a lot about how important it is to kind of be empowered and raised up. And I thought the word shine was a lovely one for us. So before we go into exactly who you are and all the brilliant things you do, what does the word shine mean to you?
Okay, so to be totally honest with you, when I was thinking about the word, you know when you get an earworm in your ear and you get that song that goes round and round your head and you can't get rid of it?
Yep.
Well, I don't know if you remember back in the 80s, but there was a band called Aswad. I don't know if you remember them.
I do. I know what you're going to say. Yeah, go on.
So I could not get the song Shine out of my head, which actually, funnily enough, helps me with my own definition because I was kind of thinking along those lines of the words of the lyrics from that song anyway. So it's like, actually, that's kind of where I'm going with it. So the words actually go, I've written it down because I know I'd forget. It was shine into the future, spreading your light wherever you are. And I just thought, yeah, that's exactly what I think shining is all about. It's spreading your light. And I think we're all made to spread our light. I think God's created us to be who we're supposed to be and to find out who that is during our life and spread it out to other people. So that's my definition from the song.
Love that. I wonder if each generation's got a shine song, because I was thinking of Shine by Take That. Now, I'm not saying that's my generation. My generation is Aswad. But probably even more 70s. Can't think of a shine song of 70s. There you go, listeners. You can tell me a song from the 70s that's got shine in it. But every now and then there seems to be a really anthemic song about really kind of shining and being who you are, aren't you? And Aswad that's a really good one. Read us the lyrics again, please.
So it says, shine into your future, spreading your light. I like that bit. Wherever you are. I think it's the light bit that I thought, oh, I love that. I think of like, just, I don't know, that kind of radiance coming from you. I think that's fab. And from knowing Jesus as well, I think that really helps.
Yeah. So we met through our love of people and wanting to empower them and raise them up and doing that through our relationships with God. But I think one of the things that's really brought us close together is our love of colours and rainbows. And you actually bought me a prism a couple of years ago, I think now. And that idea of the light shining in something that looks, for all intents and purposes, fairly dull and boring, but what comes out of it is this incredible rainbow. Tell me a little bit about True Colours and how that came to be and what it is for you.
So True Colours was kind of birthed, I guess, probably about 4 years ago now. Just to give you a bit of a background, first of all, so my background is a teacher, a primary teacher for many years, and I did love my job. And then I had my first child, and my employer wanted me to go back full time, and I just couldn't get my head around doing that at the time, because we're going through Ofsted, and it was so much pressure, that I kind of left teaching at that point, and was quite sad because there's elements of teaching that I absolutely loved. There's a lot of elements of teaching I didn't love, um, and I felt quite constrained as a person within that. I think the true colours came about really from like a rebellion against against my teacher years, because I had obviously many children in lots of classes that I taught over the years who just really struggled with their self-esteem, with anxiety, with sort of just mental health issues. It just was completely holding them back. And, I found it very frustrating not being able to give them the time and the means of helping them with that. It was very, very much pushed on me that it's their academics, it's their levels, it's, it's all about kind of push the academic side and not about the whole child. And so I left teaching quite, I don't know, I just felt really saddened that I felt like there was more in me, more shining, I guess, in me to do, that I didn't really know how to get out particularly. And then, funnily enough, I think you had a massive influence on my life, because I remember when my youngest daughter was about 4 or 5, seeing one of your it was one of your groups that you do. I think it was the music one that you do or did do, and I took her along to it. And I think I'd seen a Facebook post, and I was like, oh, this looks really interesting. This woman obviously has a passion for what she's doing, and I remember just bringing her along and meeting you for the first time. And there was something in you that I just thought, I didn't even know you were Christian at that point, I don't think, that drew me to you. And I just thought, she's stepped out on her own, doing something she's passionate about. Again, you had a teaching career that you kind of left behind to do something different. And you kind of, to be honest with you, I think that gave me that push, that little bit of a nudge of, actually, you know what, why don't you think differently? Why don't you think outside the box? So I started at that point thinking about how to help children again. I think I was in a place where I just had my last child. I'd been working as a nursery nurse up until that point, got into management, realised that wasn't what I wanted to do either, and just started to think about the kind of mental well-being side of children, and started doing after school clubs, just kind of thinking, well, maybe this is something I could have a go at. And it kind of went from there, really. And now I'm in schools working with small groups, doing mental well-being and helping lots of children, doing some one-to-one sessions as well outside of school. And it's just grown from strength to strength, really. But it was taking that step of faith of trying something new that was quite scary. Stepping out of your own comfort zone. And I think I've had to come across my own kind of self-insecurity, my insecurities of myself, and kind of grow through that as well. So that's kind of where it came from. And I think also the most massive thing is that I struggled as a child to feel secure and confident and in my own skin. So I think I naturally have a pull to see other children not have to go through that. So I don't want, and again, the name True Colours came from that, because I wanted children to realise, to see their own true colours, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, to see who they're created to be, and to develop that. So yeah.
I think it's fair to say that meeting was a meeting of minds, of hearts. There was something that really connected, and it was Raise and Shine.
That's
story
right.
time, I think it was. It might not have even been called that yet, but that was what it came to be, which is very topical for today. Tell me a little bit about your love of colour and the importance of colour to you, and why it's called True Colours, because you could have called it so many different things, all the different brilliant things that you're bringing out of children. Why True Colours?
Lots of reasons, really. I won't bore you, but the first one was, I actually woke up in the middle of the night with the song True Colours in my head. The Cyndi Lauper one.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was really going through a very, very dark time personally. And I remember going downstairs and putting the song on to have a listen to. And the words were, I see your true colours shining through. I see your true colours, that's why I love you.
Mm.
And I mean, there's a lot in that song that I just think is great. But that particular 2 lines, it was like, I actually felt God say, I'm not done with you yet. I was at a
Yeah.
point where I felt like, what do I do? Where do I go? What's my next kind of, I don't know what to do with my life, God. And I remember very clearly, it's like, I see what's ahead of you. I see the colours in you. I see all the vibrance and all the kind of at the prison, like I see all that in you. You might not see it right now, but I can see it.
Mm.
And that's where it came from. I actually went, that's it. If I do a business in the future, that's exactly what I'm calling it, because God sees that in me, but he also sees that in other people. And I think that was the most powerful. Like, God always speaks to me through song, always. And it's always random songs. It's never,
Yeah.
it's always something that comes from nowhere, and I'm like, hang on, where's that come from? Why is that? And I always get a very quick interpretation of, this is what it's about. And I love that about God. I love that, that's my connection with him. It's like, that's our little thing.
Yeah.
That if there's a song that comes into my mind, I'm always like, right, what's that about, God? Why have I got that song in my head? So yeah, that was the reason behind the name True Colours. And actually, it's really lovely, because when I go into schools now, I've got my little rainbow on, I've got the word True Colours, the children always ask, why have you got a rainbow? What does it mean? And it gives me that starting point to say to them, do you know what? There is beautiful colour in you, and there's lots about you that is unique to you, that is just full of that, beauty of a rainbow. And I think they get it, and I love that. I love that it's just so easy to understand for them then. So yeah, that's the kind of where it's come from, really.
Well, and colours are everywhere, aren't they? I mean, we talk about music being a universal language, but colour is even more so. Everybody, even those amazing people I've spoken to recently that are maybe visually impaired, they understand colour in some way or other. Going back, I talk about her a lot, but Emma Major, who's an incredible artist, and she comes up with the most amazingly coloured pictures, even though she's so visually impaired, and colour means things to people. But I think the key thing is that you're saying about colours shining out of people, and it's that way of bringing it out. And when something shines, it takes on kind of a different quality, doesn't it? Because if you have something that's matte, it's very flat and 2D, whereas when something shines, that's when it's kind of 3D, 4D. It kind of, I don't know. Podcast people, I'm doing actions as always, making my arms look like I don't know what is it, Corinna? Firework?
A rainbow to me.
A rainbow, there we go. And now I've hit the microphone, excellent. But whatever this is, that's what it does. Enhances it, empowers it, kind of makes it something, gives it another dimension, doesn't it?
It does.
However, shiny things don't necessarily start as shiny things, do they? So I'm thinking of like, I love pearls, for instance. Pearls don't start as shiny things at all. They start as grit and sand. And then they're kind of, the pearl is irritated in such a way with the oyster. And it takes years and years and years of this kind of irritation. And that's when the pearl starts to form. I'm thinking the same with a diamond. It starts off as carbon, doesn't it? And it has to be under so much pressure. And then little by little, it starts to form the facets. And then even then you can have like so many people get their rings re-dipped, don't they? Because they don't shine anymore. So shining isn't a natural thing, or is it?
I think we were all born to shine, but it's I think you've got it spot on with the whole irritation thing. I think sometimes life throws stuff at you that causes you to dig down deep and to find out who you are. And I think that's when the irritation starts. That's when the shining can begin. I think that's my own story. I'm thinking back to when I was a child, that I was that child that had very, very, so insecure. I was so you know, I had a lot of self-esteem issues, and yet I wouldn't say I'm that person now, because I've had to, through a lot of hardship, I've had to kind of be, I don't know, I kind of been that irritation, and going back to that irritation thing, that, you know, I've had to be molded into the person I am now, and it's painful.
Yeah.
You know, it's not straightforward. It's not all, oh, let's all be shiny and that's how it is. I think it is years and years of learning who you. I think that's the key, learning who you are through the hardships of life. And I think the same with children. You know, they're not. They don't. I don't think you're born naturally secure or born naturally confident. I think that it's something you learn, and I think it's something that through hardship sometimes you have to work out. And I think that's where the shining comes from, actually working it out, working out who you are and feeling secure in who you are and accepting who you are. And that's when the shining can come through. But it's not straightforward by all means. It's not, is it?
No, I was just thinking about that, because babies, I mean, we don't put any judgments on babies, do you? Babies come out and they're just naturally cute and lovely and gorgeous, and you just accept that that's how they are. You don't put any judgment on them, or they're an empowered baby or a talented baby, or maybe you do a bit as a parent, but on the whole they just are. I wonder at what point there's a need to suddenly be shiny.
Yeah, interesting one, that.
That might be something to think about. I was just looking at obviously I asked in the race community about what I always asked what the word means to them, and the lovely Sarah Burnett, who's one of our listeners, said content with the small joys of life, exuberant with a sense of inner peace, happy to just be in the presence of whoever, may be eager to share in the joy around them. So that's lovely, because none of that is somebody on stage, a big shiny celebrity. It's not, none of that, is it? It's very much smaller, and yet again this hand signals this exuberance. I love that word, exuberant with a sense of inner peace. I wonder if that's
contentment, maybe.
Contentment, yeah.
Being who you are and allowing that to come out, I guess.
Yeah. And yet a lot of people, particularly women, I guess, because that's my kind of wheelhouse at the moment as business women, that's our mums, and that's where we kind of sit. And so many women say, you know, I've had my shine dulled. Don't dull my shine. You know, people, I'm too big of a person, I'm too much. And so I wonder what that means, because if being shiny and shining out is actually being content and being you, that need to actually shine isn't there in the same way, is it? Content and need to be big doesn't resonate in the same way. What do you reckon?
No, I think you're right there. I think that they're completely two different ends of the spectrum, aren't they?
Feels like it.
Yeah, I think are you shining if you're feeling the need to shine? Does that make sense? Shining if you're looking around needing that from other people, or is it the contentment of actually I'm just me being me, just being in the moment, being me, and allowing me to have an impact on the people around me, which I think is what we're born to do, really, in a positive way. So I don't think they are complementary of each other. I think they're two completely different things.
It's interesting though, the notion of being too much, because that's that's a judgment on somebody, isn't it? And maybe somebody does shine because they are exuberant and gregarious and out there, and they're not making themselves be that is just who they are. But yeah, because I think sometimes people think, but I'm an introvert and I stay at home all the time and I don't find socializing easy, so surely I can't shine. But that's just not true.
No, not at all. There's lots of different ways to shine as well. You don't have to be outgoing particularly to shine. I think, you know, being
shining in those small ways. I mean, if you think about a candle, that's really small, isn't it? It's a small flame. It's not like a massive firework, but if you light it in the dark, it transforms everything. Yeah, I wonder how that makes a difference in the children that you work with then, because you must come up against lots of different children, some of whom are really out there and big and maybe, you know, low level disruptors even, maybe high level disruptors as well, and then those who don't, just kind of seem to be in the background. And how do you encourage them to all shine in some way?
It's interesting because how I work in schools is that I ask the teachers to then choose the children that they think need extra help. So I'll work with maybe a group between 6 and 10, maybe 12 sometimes children, and you can have so many different characters in that group. You know, you can have the all kind of exuberant, I'm here, you know, kind of child. You can have the really quiet ones that want to sit and be quiet, and within that group I have to work at all their levels, do you know what I mean, to reach them where they're at. And I think quite often the ones that are loud for a reason, because you know that they have got insecurities like any child does. We all have our insecurities. They just show it in a different way, and it's not always, you know, nothing wrong with being loud at all. I think just that sometimes they kind of hide behind that. I'm the child that makes everyone laugh. I'm the one that, you know, is the cheeky one, or the one that likes to misbehave, or the one that likes to shout over the teacher, and you know, but there's always a reason why they're being that way. It's you know, it's not always a negative thing, because I think we're all kind of, it's being a positive thing too, but it is interesting to see that, you know, the teacher will say that particular child, although very, very loud, has got a very, you know, a lot of insecurities. So I think it's just accepting them for who they are. I try not to go into schools and be a teacher, actually. I try not to be, sounds awful saying that, but I try and go in there as someone that they can see differently, so that I'm not related to them as a teacher. Nothing wrong being a teacher, but I'm not related to them that way. I'm not telling them to sit down, be quiet, listen to me, I've got all the answers. It's not like that at all. It's more, you know, kind of mutual respect. And I think once they see that I'm not going in there I'm in there to help, and I'm in there to get down to their level. I think that's the massive thing, to be on their level and to befriend them in a way that they feel safe, that they feel that they can just be themselves. And I think that's the biggest thing. You know, you might find, I mean, I had one child recently that just mute, would not speak in front of anybody. Yet by the time that she'd left my little group, she was speaking. It was fine.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's lovely, isn't it? I think she felt really secure, and I think that's what I go into. I'm like, do you know what? I want them to feel that it's a safe place, that they can share their feelings, they can share and not feel judged by other children, which is very hard to do sometimes. And not feel judged by me, but to understand that we're all in the same boat. You know, I quite often share my own stories, my own backgrounds. So they realise that even as adults, I can't get up in front of 20 adults and speak in front of them without wanting to run away, because I really struggle with that. Children I'm great with, adults I'm not. And I think it's for them to realise that everybody just has their own insecurities. We're all, you know, you're not any different to anybody else, and to feel safe to say, I really struggle in this. And I think that's where I've forgotten what the question was now. I think that's where I think I allow those children to be who they are. I think that is the main thing, and to accept them, and to not try and, you must be this way or that way, or listen, or, you know, just, I let the noisy ones be noisy if they want to be. And quite often by the end of the sessions, they'll be just happily chatting away, and they're not trying to then, you know, be the loud one. Or it's very interesting to see different characters and how they respond to me as well. You know, it's
it's interesting, isn't it, as both as ex-teachers, because as teachers you have all those boundaries and expectations that you have to adhere to with the children, but then being able to go in more as a kind of a youth worker and an advocate is a very different hat, isn't it? And I can imagine how many teachers are frustrated that they haven't got the time to see those children as they want to and holistically. I think that's a real pull, but being able to go in and be that person is a real gift. And it, you know, particularly for that little girl who didn't speak, that will be such an incredible gift for her, Corinna, for her parents, and for her friends, you know, that they see her in a different way. I think that's wonderful. How brilliant is Corinna? We love shining at Raise, and we want to be able to keep shining, particularly when it comes to the podcast market. So if you hear us, please share the episode with your friends. And if you could pop us a 5-star rating on your favourite music platform, that always helps us to shine that little bit brighter in a world where there's millions and millions of podcasts already. Thank you. Back to the episode. So we said a little bit at the top of the podcast that obviously this is kind of Easter weekend, and I'm looking out and the sun is actually shining, which is wonderful. Tell me a little bit about how your faith enables you to shine.
Oh, that's a good question. I think the closer I get to God, the more I feel I can be myself. So I'm able to shine and be me. And I think it's, I just think that the more I understand that he loves me, and the more I get that, the more I like myself, if that makes sense. Because I'm like, well, if God accepts me, then I should accept me too. So I think that is massive in my walk. My walk with God is massive to my kind of my work and my outlook on life, definitely, and how I do my job as well. I think that if you can see other people as God sees you, and God, when I think especially like you said, it's Easter coming up, and having a new revelation of actually he died on the cross for me, and he didn't need to, and it was for me. It's like if you get down to that personal kind of, yes, it was the world, but it was for me. I think that is a massive kind of, I don't know, it's just like so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because as Christians, we often don't think of Jesus as kind of all singing, all dancing. He wasn't a celebrity. He didn't want to be a celebrity. And yet he definitely had that thing that made him shine within him, because he drew people to him. And I think very much about my lovely business coach, Anna McManus Hughes, and how she accuses me of having shiny object syndrome, because I'm like a magpie. I'm really drawn to shiny, sparkly things. And that's what happened with Jesus. People were drawn to him, even though by character he wanted to be, they use the word meek, don't they, and humble, and he didn't want a load of pizzazz about what he was doing, even though he was doing miraculous things. And that always, I've been watching, I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been watching the Chosen, and the way that they portray Jesus in that.
Brilliant.
He's just so human in it, isn't he? But the way that people are drawn to him is really wonderful. How is your kind of relationship with God enabled you to shine over the last kind of 4 or 5 years? Because not when we first met, but when we very first did the podcast, the very first one, we were right in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, we were.
And we were talking about not going out and how you were serving the community by not going out. How's things kind of changed over the last few years for you in relationship to kind of shining?
I think so. When I first started the business, True Colours, I had kind of two arms to it. I had the kind of mental well-being children side, and I had the community side, which has actually changed quite a lot. I've gone from, and it's definitely changed because COVID hit. I couldn't do the community aspect of things. couldn't go out, couldn't do anything. So did a lot of online stuff with children, and I loved doing that. And that kind of definitely grew that side of my business. And then I was able then, the doors flung open in schools for me to go into schools after that. It was just, really, obviously after COVID, lots of children really struggling with their mental health. So that flung up open the doors for that. But then the community aspect, I had to kind of let go of in a way. But it's not a bad thing, because God is still using that in me. I'm still getting it out, but through church, which is great. I think that it was very clear at one point that God was like, this is the kind of business way to go, but there's still that part in you that I want to shine through you, but to be focused more doing that through the church, which I have to be honest with you, it was a bit of a grieving process, because I was like, yeah, but I love doing all this thing in the community.
Yeah.
How am I going to be able to do that in church? But I have been, and we've started things recently like a messy church. So I've with a team, I just started a messy church, which is fantastic, and we're getting families from the area that we never ever would have been able to get inside the church doors at all, which is brilliant. We started a cafe on a Tuesday, a community cafe, which we do crafts and we do all sorts for everybody, all ages, and that's been brilliant. And it's all been God's timing, it's all been God's hand on it, and opening doors at the right time, and me not pushing the doors. Because sometimes I think we can feel like, oh, we should be doing and we need to be doing. But I definitely know it's his hand in it, and I definitely know that I'm therefore able to still reach out to our community, but in a different way and in a God way, which is actually very exciting. It's still happening, just in a different way. So yeah,
that's brilliant. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I did an episode a while ago with Zara Salloway about sparkle, and having a light on something makes it sparkle more. I think having a light through something makes something shine, and that's very much what you're saying, isn't it? That it was God's light through you that is doing the shining.
yes,
not the Shining like the horror film. That's a completely different podcast episode. I couldn't talk on that because I've never seen it. But that element of well, they say, don't they, about it's where the cracks form that the light can shine through. And you're talking a bit about that grieving process, and I very much had that as well through having long COVID and really not knowing what was going to happen with Ray's at all. And I know you've been so instrumental in supporting me and helping me to keep that going through prayer and friendship. But it is at that moment where you're like, right, okay, then I actually have to be cracked in order for the light to shine through. It's not a game. I can't pretend to just do a tiny little hairline fracture and say, will the light get through this? Because it doesn't, does it? It's got to be a full-on crack for the light to actually shine, and it's painful.
It is. I've never seen it that way, and I really like that analogy of the crack and I like that. I've never seen it.
The other pictures I really like are a kaleidoscope, the same kind of idea where it literally has to be broken in order for different patterns to appear. But again, it's the light shining through it that casts all the different patterns. So you can have a load of broken up bits of glass, but if there's no light shining through it, you still can't actually see it. There's no reason to it, whereas when the light shines through, that's when you get all the colors. And I'm using my hand, Corinna, I'm using my hands so much. We started before we actually recorded this saying we're glad it's not being videoed, but really, my goodness me, I feel like I'm doing a workout. But again, it's this enhancement and this empowerment. The colors just take on a kind of a 3D 4D effect, don't they, through this shining. And it is painful to be cracked and broken, and I think we've both been through that in different ways, and again kind of been supported by that. I'm just going to take a minute to talk to people listening, and just say that if you're feeling cracked and a bit broken today as you listen to this, then be assured that the light will shine through. If you're able to get somewhere where you can find some light, whether it's at a church or whether it's through your faith or a friend or someone that supports you, you are important. What Corinna was saying right at the beginning, you know, that we've all got so much in us that needs to shine, and whether you're somebody that talks to nobody or whether you're someone that is absolutely desperate to get 5,000 hits every time you put a post on social media, you can shine and you are important. And if what Corinna's talked about today, if that resonates with you, then can they just PM you on your True Colours page?
Yeah, they can do. Yeah.
She's absolutely brilliant to speak to, and obviously Ray's and the community are around for you as well. Corinna, we're nearly at the end when I get to do another poem, but this time I have to do it about the word shine, but there's quite a lot of words that rhyme with shine, which is quite helpful. Before I do that, is there anything else that you wanted to share with us or wanted us to know this morning?
I think what you've just said there was needed. Yeah, I think that life is a journey, isn't it? And I think that we're not always at the top of the mountain. There's lots of valleys.
Yeah.
And walking through those valleys is very tricky, and it is very hard to see any light when you're in that dark place.
Yeah.
But like you said, even the smallest of light, even the little tiniest flicker of a candle, can still be seen from miles away in the darkness. And it's just finding that, whatever it means to you, whether it's your faith, whether it's some belief in yourself, or knowing that you're loved by others, you know, it's finding that flame and focusing on that, not on what's going on, not the darkness around you, but just kind of focusing on the goodness of the beauty of that shining flame. It's really important.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to finish with a little poem, so I'll just take a couple of seconds. Light a candle, pass it on. You will see the dark has gone. Pick a colour, find the heart, shine right through, become a part of something new. Be recreated, be reinstated. You may be small, but you're not all or nothing. You are you. You are where the light shines through. Yep.
Love that.
I like that one. I'll take that. Corinna, thank you so much for this morning. Thank you for your friendship, for enabling me to shine when the myriad of cracks that seem to be appearing every day sometimes get a bit too much. And thank you for what you do with our children. If anybody's listening around the West Yorkshire area, do get in touch with Corinna, particularly if you've got a child at school. She's brilliant at what she does and who she is. Any last thoughts?
Just keep shining. You keep shining too, Carol. You've got a beauty about you, love.
Thank you. Thanks, Corinna. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful Easter if you're listening to this before Easter. And if not, God bless and take care. Bye-bye.